So, dear students, we have been discussing this topic of hyponatremia. Today we will try to cover hyponatremia algorithmic approach along with hypernatremia also. It's not very common but important to know. Next class we are going to do potassium high and low and also if possible hypocalcemia also. These are that finishes all the electrolytes. Next Tuesday I will try to cover those three. The remaining things, magnesium and all, you read for yourself. So hyponatremia, as we have earlier seen, is first of all we look at the tonicity. That means is it isotonic or is it hypotonic or hypertonic? So that again puts us in a different differential diagnosis. So supposing the tonicity is low or high, low or moderate, I mean normal or high, then we are dealing with something other than a true hyponatremia. As you can see here, isotonic, so isotonic and then the hypertonic. If it is isotonic, there are two important conditions you need to remember. What is isotonic? There is hyponatremia as defined by less than 135 minimum, and it can go down also. And then the tonicity is 280 to 295 is isotonic, milliosmoles per liter. This you can either measure in the lab or you can calculate also. You know how to calculate that. We have done in acid base also. And if it is more than 295, it is a hypertonic. The moment it is hypertonic, we are dealing with hyperglycemia or sorbitol or mannitol. These are sorbitol also you can write. So sorbitol infusion, mannitol infusion or hyperglycemia due to any cause, particularly type 2 diabetes hyperglycemia, these throw the system into hypertonic state and there will be hyponatremia associated with that. But if it is isotonic and hyponatremia is there with the osmolality between 280 to 295, then it is hypertriglyceridemia and hyperproteinemia and paraproteinemia, multiple myeloma, hyperlipidemia, hypertriglyceridemia are the causes, and obviously giving sodium or doing something with the sodium is not going to help. So for that reason, whenever you see hyponatremia, first get the plasma osmolarity, serum osmolarity. If it is normal, isotonic or hypertonic, we are not dealing with true hyponatremia and the other causes have to be thought of. Now we are left with the condition called the low tonicity, that is less than 280 milliosmoles, and that is a true hyponatremia. And we know this is again of three types: hypovolemic, normovolemic, and hypervolemic. Causes are different, treatment also is going to be different. So the fundamental step is first look at the serum sodium and then look at the serum osmolality. And depending on that, you arrive whether you are in which of the three boxes you arrive at that. So we are not taking any discussion on these two things further because they are not, conditions which indirectly cause hyponatremia and they have to be managed. But of course, we will go a little more detailed about this particular condition. Okay, hyponatremia, serum sodium 135, less than 135 per milliequivalents per liter. Then the immediate question is the patient symptomatic or is the patient asymptomatic? Why is that important? If he is symptomatic, the disease will progress faster and you require immediate treatment. And you may have to be treating it as an emergency basis. So symptomatic hyponatremia, what are the symptoms? Like CNS mostly. Hyponatremia doesn't cause any other symptoms. Mostly CNS, like confusion, ataxia, seizures, obtundation, coma, and respiratory depression. Remember, these will be the similar symptoms for hypernatremia also. But the serum sodium is the guide less than 135, true hyponatremia. Now, suppose he is having severe symptoms. We'll have another table and we'll go to that table afterwards. But before that, we go into the asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic patient. That means he may have no symptoms but except a biochemical hyponatremia. But he may also have the headache or lethargy or mild dizziness, things like that, which are much milder symptoms. As we have told earlier, we look at the serum osmolality. Serum osmolarity is three things can happen. It is normal or it is high. If it is high, more than 200 milliosmoles, 285 milliosmoles per kilogram, we are dealing with hypertonic hyponatremia. The causes are hyperglycemia, mannitol, sorbitol, or radio contrast dyes. Supposing you are given for a CT or something, you given or IVP or a biliary angiography, you give a radio contrast dye that can produce, hypertonic hyponatremia. Apart from hyperglycemia, mannitol, sorbitol, radio contrast studies also can be kept in mind. These are the simple number of causes. Then, if you go to the other side, it is normal. It is neither increased nor decreased. It is exactly between 280 and 285 milliosmoles here. And more than 285 we have listed there. Between 280 and 285 milliosmoles is normal. This is isotonic hyponatremia, also called pseudohyponatremia. SS for paraproteinemia, paraproteinuria, and then the hyperlipidemia, particularly hypertriglyceridemia. Almost a similar information in the previous slide. Now, if the hypotonic hyponatremia is there, that means the osmolality is less than 280 milliosmoles per kilogram, then we are dealing with hyponatremia with hypotonicity. Immediate situation will be, is it hypervolemic, hypovolemic, or normovolemic? That means we have to do a thorough clinical examination to know the volume status. How do I know the volume status? I have told you earlier, vital signs are very important. Orthostatic, statics, that is, change in the blood pressure, and then, any jugular venous distension, skin turgor, mucous membrane dryness, and then the moistness, then peripheral edema, blood urea nitrogen, and uric acid levels. These will give an idea about what is the, bounding pulse or very weak pulse, systolic very high, or the total pulse pressure is very, very widened, as in case of hypervolemic, or the pulse and pulse is very weak and thready, and then BP is low, which is on the hypovolemia side. You know how to assess for the volume status and decide whether it is hypovolemia or normovolemia or hypervolemia. So now very easy. So have a serum sodium level first, then look at the osmolality. If it is high or it is normal, we are not dealing with true hyponatremia. The conditions are separated. High osmolality is hyperglycemia, mannitol, sorbitol, radio contrast. Normal osmolality and hyponatremia, isotonic hyponatremia, or pseudohyponatremia. Look at the proteins, look at a protein electrophoresis, M proteins, other paraproteins, and hyperlipid. If you are in the lower zone, less than 280 milliosmoles, osmolality, it is hypotonic hyponatremia. Assess the volume status. And these are the parameters we have. Now let us. I have assessed and I found out three possible things: hypovolemic, euvolemic, and then hypervolemic. So each one of us, we will further differentiate. Hypovolemic means there is decreased total body water. That is why there is hypovolemia. And there is hyponatremia because of the sodium also is lower. So both water and sodium are decreased. Proportionately more sodium is decreased. That is why you have got hypovolemic hyponatremia. Then, am I losing the sodium from the kidney or am I losing it from somewhere else? That is the question. How do I answer? Look at the urine sodium. If the urine sodium is more than 20 milliequivalents per liter, it means it is a renal loss. Whereas if it is extra-renal loss, kidney will try to conserve the sodium and urine sodium will be less than 20 milliequivalents. The immediate question is, third test that you are asking, one is the serum sodium, second is osmolality, third is the urinary sodium. These are the three basic tests required both for hyper as well as for hyponatremia. If the urine sodium is more than 20, means the kidney is wasting the salt along with the water. More salt is wasted than water, hypovolemic hyponatremia. What are the causes? Could be diuretics, could be mineralocorticoid deficiency. This is some other cause. There could be some other cause. The list is a little longer, but basically the kidney is losing the salt, like cerebral salt losing syndrome and all. What we were familiar with some of those. The treatment is different. That is why we need. What do I need to do? I have to give isotonic saline. What should I do? I should give isotonic saline and not hypertonic saline or dextrose or restricting fluid. That is not the answer. Suppose it is extrarenal loss, then we know like vomiting, diarrhea, or it is in the peritoneal cavity, third space sequestration, or a small or a bowel obstruction. In all these cases, the fluid is held in the bowel loops or in the peritoneum or is lost by diarrhea and vomiting. There will be very clear indication patient is hypovolemic, there is hyponatremia, both water and salt are lost. You treat a case of dehydration, and that is again isotonic saline 0.9% sodium chloride will be the treatment. Okay, and specific treatments of diarrhea, vomiting, third space, bowel obstruction are according to the causes. We are not going into the details of that. Now, if the urine sodium, here in this, again, here also we are looking at the urine sodium, but here the volume status is maintained. There is no hypovolemia or hypervolemia, euvolemia. That means only sodium is lost, not much of total body water is rather increased, normal total body sodium. And that resulted in the hyponatremia. Okay, there is not much of loss of fluid or sodium, but the water is slightly more retained. With the result, we are seeing the hyponatremia. What is that? Then look at the urine osmolality. Another test is required now, urine osmolality. What is urine osmolality? Just like the serum osmolality, we calculate the urine osmolality. But here, there only sodium and glucose and one are used. Here, you use potassium also, and the calculation earlier in acid-base balance I have shown. So if the urine osmolality is more than 100 milliosmoles, that means syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion. Okay, hypothyroidism, adrenal insufficiency, drug related. So these are all the conditions where water is retained more than required. That is why these conditions do occur when SIADH and hypothyroidism, adrenal insufficiency, stress, certain drugs. And what do? I restrict the water. Treatment is water, fluid restriction. Automatically, fluid restriction means total body water is brought to normal, then the serum sodium will look normal. Okay. If the urine osmolality is less than 100 milliosmoles, that means very dilute urine is being produced. There is a sort of primary polydipsia. Patient is taking excess water due to thirst, and that causes the low osmolality of the urine. More urine is produced, polyuria is there, osmolarity is there, only plain water is taken, not much of salt is replenished. There is hyponatremia. That is our low solute intake. That means a marathon runners or in summer, hot summer, the worker they feel they're thirsty, they take only water and don't replace the salt. So that is solute is less taken and then more than water. And beer protonemia is another syndrome, similar thing where the fluid is more and without the electrolyte. Here again, what we need to do is we restrict the fluid and it will get corrected because it is primary polydipsia or excessive water alone without the salt. And we know if it is due to heat stroke or something where they lose excess salt through the skin and only replace water, we can give some electrolyte containing solutions orally that will correct. The third possibility is osmolarity is variable. That means there is a syndrome called the reset osmolality, and there also the fluid restriction will be the treatment of choice. So in other words, here in the first group, isotonic saline, the second group, fluid restriction is the treatment of choice, and the oral salted drinks and other things. Then we are going into another condition where there is a hypervolemic, very much increased body water, but then the total sodium also is lower. Hypervolemic hyponatremia. That means we know what are the hypervolemic conditions. What are the hypervolemic conditions? Heart failure, cirrhosis, nephrotic syndrome, hypovolemia. In all these conditions, water is retained and sodium excretion also suffers. That is why urinary sodium will be less. There is less of sodium in the urine, there is excess fluid in the body, as you can see in these conditions. How do we treat them? Man has heart failure, man has cirrhosis, nephrosis, hypoalbuminemia with diuretics and fluid and sodium restriction. Here, fluid should not be administered, salt should not be administered. We have to restrict the fluid, use diuretics, see to it that the sodium is and the fluid, more fluid is lost and the hypervolemic state is brought down, automatically the sodiums will get corrected. The other way around. Supposing there is no heart failure, there is no cirrhosis, no nephrosis, no hypoalbuminemia, but then patient is hypervolemic, that means kidney failure is retaining water and salt, more water than the salt. But there is salt excretion will be in that case more than 20, whereas there is a reflex mineralocorticoid stimulation in these conditions. That is why urine sodium is less than 20. Here, because of renal failure, urine sodium separates the renal failure from other causes of hypervolemic hyponatremia. How do I treat them? Fluid and sodium restriction, maybe put the patient for dialysis, maybe peritoneal dialysis or hemodialysis in the chronic cases. So, in nutshell, we have to first make a diagnosis of hypovolemic. We have to make a diagnosis of hypotonic hyponatremia. And once we make a diagnosis of hypotonic hyponatremia, then we have to see whether it is hypovolemic or normovolemic or hypervolemic. If it is hypovolemic, treatment is isotonic saline. If it is euvolemic, treatment is fluid restriction and specific treatment for the underlying cause. Remembering that CR and then hypothyroidism, adrenal insufficiency, drugs could be the underlying cause. And in addition to compulsive polydipsia and also low solute intake, Beer-Protemin syndrome. Whereas if you have hypervolemia, then there will be fluid overload in the body, as you see in all the conditions like heart failure, cirrhosis, nephrosis, hypoalbuminemia, and urine sodium is less because of reflex mineralocorticoid stimulation. They try to conserve in these conditions, and that is why there is a water retention. Along with water, sodium also is retained. Urinary sodium is low. When there is a renal failure, just the same picture, but the urine sodium excretion is rather unaffected or more than 20. So what are the tests required? First thing is serum sodium. Second thing is serum osmolality. Third thing is urine sodium. Fourth one is urine osmolality. With these four things, you can come to a diagnosis where exactly the patient is there and the differential diagnosis of those conditions by other clinical associated features you have to understand. Now we have left that one person who is highly symptomatic to start with. Let us look at that person. People who are presenting with symptoms, severe symptoms of hyponatremia like seizures, mental confusion, lethargy, coma, obtundation. These are very serious symptoms. Immediately infuse 3% saline if there is hyponatremia and symptomatic hyponatremia. The goal is to increase the serum sodium level by at least 6 to 8 milliequivalents per liter and not to exceed 10 to 12 in 24 hours or 18 in 48 hours. Because very rapid increase in the serum sodium can produce a syndrome called central pontine myelinolysis. We'll come to that. So what do I have to do? I have to give 3% saline, 1 to 2 ml per kilogram per hour. And we will show the calculation also how much you give. And the idea is to bring back the sodium by 6 to 8 milliequivalents per liter, at the most by 12 milliequivalents in 24 hours and 18 milliequivalents in 48 hours. Immediately 6 within 24 hours, 12 within 48 hours, 18 milliequivalents only we can attempt, not vigorous than that. And also some cases where there is a sort of desmopressin. So inappropriate situations where desmopressin, consider desmopressin. How does this act, desmopressin? Desmopressin is vasopressin. Vasopressin is antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone retains the fluid. You may expect that fluid retention might produce more hyponatremia. No. What will happen is it also stimulates the adrenal gland, and through the adrenal gland, the sodium also is retained as this desmopressin. Not only has got water retention, it also has got good sodium retention capacity. So when you are infusing 3% saline and also using desmopressin, it will help recover the symptoms faster. How much I give? 1 to 2 micrograms every 4 to 6 hours. Not in every case, only in selected cases. Now, the other way of treatment is bolus IV 3% saline. Not as drip, just take 100 ml of saline, 3% saline, and then slowly inject into the vein as a bolus, with the goal of increasing the serum sodium at least quickly by 2 or 3 milliequivalents, because 120 and 115 are very not tenable with life. So even if you bring it by a few milliequivalents, it will save him from death. And keep checking your serum sodium every 20 minutes if you are giving bolus until the symptoms resolve. And repeat the bolus twice if the symptoms do not resolve. This form of treatment also is available. This is a little slower infusion over a period of 6 hours, 24 hours, and 48 hours. This is a much faster depending on the severity of the hyponatremia. Both are protocols are available. Then what? Look for the symptom resolution. What are the symptoms? Seizures, obtundation, then sort of patient feels drowsy, comatose, mental status changes. All these things, they start happening if the serum sodium is less than 125. Okay? So that is where it starts. 135 is the cutoff, but the moment it starts coming to 125, these sort of symptoms start appearing. Now, you may note here that hyponatremia is the single most important cause of fatality in an ICU situation. So every day, morning and evening, for an ICU patient, the electrolytes are repeated for that reason, because there will be unknown hyponatremia, hidden hyponatremia. Patient may not be symptomatic. Unless you recognize and order the test, you may miss it. If you don't look at the serum sodium, patient is asymptomatic until 125, and suddenly he becomes drowsy and obtunded and comatose. So the underlying thing is around 20-25 cases of percent of cases do have asymptomatic hyponatremia in the ICU setting, and they all must be evaluated. Okay, let us look further about little calculation. So this is again similar situation. I'll try to explain this also. So first of all, what this algorithm says, exclude hyperglycemia and a non-hypotonic hyponatremia like triglycerides, paraproteins, hyperglycemia, mannitol, sorbitol, radioactive dyes. This is not true hyponatremia. So then you are left with hypotonic hyponatremia. Is it acute or severe? If it is acute or severe symptoms present, consider the immediate treatment with hypertonic saline. There's not much of acute symptoms. No. Look for the urine osmolality less than 100, primary polydipsia, and then low solute intake and beer proteinemia more than 100. Then you have to look at the serum urine concentration. They said 30, but usually many books give 20 millimoles per. Oh, that is milliequivalents per liter. Okay, that's okay. And low effective arterial blood volume, and expand the ECF, that is, hypotonic, hypovolemic states. And there will be, here these are hypervolemic states, expanded ECF, heart failure, and cirrhosis, and all, nephrotic syndrome also. And if the other way around, diuretics and kidney disease may be the cause when there is serum sodium is, urinary sodium is more than 30 milliequivalents. Okay. Now, let us look at the based on symptoms. So we go by patients with serum sodium above 120 are generally asymptomatic. Some books say 125. No problem. Symptoms tend to occur when the serum sodium lowers less than 120 or 125. When a rapid, more than 120, the rapidity of the decline causes symptoms. Somebody is 130, suddenly comes to 120, he will be more symptomatic than a person who developed 120 over a period of 1 week. Understand? So rapid decline is more important. Patient can have mild symptoms at sodium concentrations 110 to 115 when this can be reached gradually. If it is sudden, that will produce very severe symptoms. So how do they present? A hypertonic saline needs to be administered when they are symptomatic, as we have seen. Severe symptoms are not present, can start initiating fluid restriction and determining the cause of the hyponatremia. Oral fluid restriction is a good first step to prevent further drop in the sodium. Generally, we forget that. So whenever we see a case of hyponatremia, infuse. Now, fluid restriction is important rather than trying to be vigorous and then infuse. Unless there is a hypovolemic shock or the fluid requirement is really there. This does not mean you cannot give isotonic fluid. So when we say fluid restriction, it is by mouth we are talking. There is nothing wrong in giving a 0.9% sodium chloride or 5% dextrose or any isotonic fluid because that is isoosmotic. It is not going to shift either way. So that can be done. So severe symptoms are present. Now starting dose of 100 ml of 3% saline or 150 ml, I told you the bolus treatment, and generally raise the serum sodium by 3 milliequivalents quickly, and goals are around 2 milliequivalents per liter per hour, or maximum around 6 in the first 4 to 5 hours, around 18 or 12 in the first 24 hours, and then 12 in 10 or 12 in the 24 hours, and 18 in the 48 hours. I ask you to remember 6 hours 6 milliequivalents, 24 hours 12 milliequivalents, and 48 hours 18. 6, 12, 20, 6, 12, and 18, and the duration is 6 hours, 24 hours, and 48 hours. Or per hour about 2 milliequivalents initially. Beyond that, higher speed is not required. It should not be done. So oral fluid restriction is the first step. What is fluid restriction? Not more than 100 and 1500 ml per day. Okay, not more than 1500 ml per day, and only pertains to oral fluids. Isotonic fluids do not count towards the fluid restriction. If volume depletion is present, isotonic saline can be given intravenously. Careful monitoring should be used for the symptoms. Okay, every 4 hours or 6 hours, look at the serum electrolytes. Now, how do I calculate the deficit? Serum sodium deficit is calculated as follows. Total body water multiplied by desired sodium by the actual sodium that is there. Let us say total body water is how much? Around 50% in case of man and 60% in case of 60% in case of women and 50% because their ubi is more fatty, and 50% is the body weight is in women and 60% of the body weight is water in men. So how do I do the calculation? A 60 kilogram woman is there with serum sodium of 116. So I got a value of 116. Because it is a very severe grade of hyponatremia, you have to infuse 3% sodium chloride. And how much I give? How much sodium will bring her up to 124? I don't want to bring her to 135 straight away, because in a day I can expect to bring around 8 to 10. So maybe in the next 12 to 24 hours, I'll plan to have up to 124, let us say. 126 also you can plan. Let us say we have planned for 124, and from then we take her up further. The sodium needed will be 124 minus 116. Starting sodium is 116. What we expected to treat and get to a level of 124, which means 124 minus 16 is 8, and that her body weight is 60. So 60 into 8 we will take, but we know only half of that is water, so we multiply by 0.5. That gives me 240 milliequivalents of sodium is required to be infused. What does calculation says? I require half of the body weight is water, so 0.5. Body weight is 60. Initial sodium is 116. My target sodium is 128, 124. So the calculation gave me 240 milliequivalents of sodium. Then I must know how much sodium hypertonic saline contains. If there is a hypertonic solution of 1 liter, it gives to 500 milliequivalents. You understand? So if there is 1 liter of hypertonic saline, it gives 500 milliequivalents. What my target is only 240 milliequivalents. So how much I have to give? Half liter. So half liter of hypertonic saline is to be given over a period of 24 hours. Initially a little faster, then little slowly you have to do that. That is the calculation. Supposing I am not using hypertonic saline or I used to start with and then I wanted to shift to normal saline, then I must know 1 liter of normal saline gives 150 roughly. 1 liter of normal saline gives 150. If this man has to be given only normal saline, this woman, 240 is the required increment, but each liter will give 150. So to get 240, 1 liter plus probably another 800, 750 ml. So that will give another maybe 240, 100. So that will become 250. So I require to infuse 1 liter plus another 0.7 liter of N saline. There are two ways of looking at it. If you are using hypertonic saline, which you must be using in this case because it is very low, we know that how to calculate the sodium deficit, the present sodium and the expected rise you want, what is the difference? Expected rise up to 124, present given value of the hyponatremic patient 116, so the difference is 8, body weight is 60, 8 into 60 is 480, but half only is water, remaining half is not counted, so half of 480 is 240 milliequivalents are required. I know 1 liter of my hypertonic fluid can give 500 milliequivalents. If I require 250 milliequivalents, half liter of hypertonic saline is required over a period of 24 hours. Initially a little faster, after that a little slower. If you were to use normal saline, we require 1.7 liters. If it is hypertonic saline, we require half liter. Okay, this is how you calculate. So example continued, patient needed 240 milliequivalents in the next 24 hours. Average is to 10 milliequivalents per hour, isn't it? 240 in 24 hours is 10 milliequivalents per hour. Or 10 milliequivalents means 20 ml of hypertonic saline per hour. Because 1 liter gives 500. 1 liter is equal to 500. Okay, 20 ml gives how much? 10 milliequivalents. So every hour I require to raise by 10 milliequivalents. I want to infuse, that means 20 ml I infuse per hour. However, this will raise the serum sodium by 0.33 per hour. Thereafter, increasing the rate to 60 ml to 90 ml will produce a desired rate of sodium increase to 1.1 to 1.5 per hour until symptoms resolve. You estimate what is the rate at which you want to increase and you titrate the fluid. Shall I use 20 ml, or if I want faster, I will use that 40 ml, or I use 60 ml, or I use 90 ml per hour in the first 1 to 2 hours. After that, I will settle down to a lower volume of the hypertonic saline. So what happens if I infuse too fast? A dreaded complication of increasing the sodium too fast is called the CPM, central pontine myelinolysis. Why does this occur? What happens is, when you infuse the hypertonic saline faster, they say the blood circulating there will be hypertonic and it will draw the fluid from the brain, particularly the brainstem and the pons, and that sudden withdrawal of fluid from the pons is called osmotic demyelination. Because of the excess osmotic oncotic pressure in the blood vessels, in the blood circulating the brainstem. Brainstem is very sensitive to that, and fluid is drawn into the vascular compartment from the brain. So there is what is called osmotic demyelination. That produces myelinolysis. It is called central pontine myelinolysis. Symptoms generally occur 2 to 6 days after elevation of. So that is another pity. So if you are infusing fast and the patient recovers, you send him home after a week or 5 days, he will come up with the symptoms of central pontine myelinolysis. By which time You don't expect, but after discharge only this comes. So it sometimes is very dangerous, irreversible, or only partially reversible. And so we have to be very careful and not too fast raising the serum sodium. So what is the guideline? First 6 hours, maximum 6 milliequivalents. First 24 hours, 12 milliequivalents. And then first 48 hours, 18 milliequivalents. Should not exceed. And accordingly, you calculate. Okay. Symptoms of CPM: dysarthria, dysphagia, paraparesis, quadriparesis, lethargy, coma, even seizures. Coma and seizures are already features of hyponatremia. So what you have to look for: paraparesis, quadriparesis, dysphagia, dysarthria, because of the Pons involvement. So who are the people who are going to get demyelination? If the concentration in or 24 hours, the correction over 24 hours is more important than any one particular hour. In one particular hour, if you infuse a few little more fluid, initially it doesn't happen. But over the 24 hours, see to it, more than 10 to 12 milliequivalents, you have not corrected. More common if the serum, if the sodium increases by more than 12 milli, of course, we will not try to do that. If by vigorously, by infusing it, if the per day correction is more than 20 milliequivalents per 24 hours, then it could occur. Very uncommon. If sodium is around 10 to 12 milliequivalents you use, rarely you will get the central pontine myelinolysis. How do I diagnose? So CT findings preferable. MRI also can be done to diagnose demyelination. But this is only a diagnosis by imaging studies, but treatment is rather poor. And these changes may not be positive until some time. So initial changes may be nil or normal, and the MRI changes may appear very late. What are the treatment options? It's associated with very poor prognosis. Prevention is the key. How do I prevent? I see to it, I don't increase the sodium by more than 10 to 12 milliequivalents per liter per day. That is the crux. Small studies have shown that plasmapheresis done immediately after the diagnosis to remove the excess sodium it can produce clinical improvement. So I'm going to summarize hyponatremia. Hyponatremia has a variety of causes, particularly true hyponatremia, hypoosmotic hyponatremia, or isoosmotic hyponatremia. Look for the triglyceridemia and then the paraproteinemia. Hyperosmotic hyponatremia. Look for diabetes, sorbitol, mannitol, contrast dyes, and other things. If it is hyponatremia of hypotonic hyponatremia, then euvolemic, hypovolemic, hypervolemic. Hypervolemic syndromes we know and differentiate them by urine sodium excretion. In cirrhosis, heart failure and all this, urine sodium will be lower, less than 20. It will be higher in case of renal failure. This is hypertonic hyponatremia. Hypervolemic hypotonic hyponatremia. Then euvolemic fluid restriction is the answer, and then the hypovolemic is dehydration. Hypovolemia, hyponatremia is the wasting from the kidney, or the wasting through the GI tract, diarrhea, third space, and all, depending on the VT. Based on the symptoms, the severity of the symptoms, use hypertonic saline. Mild or no symptoms, fluid restriction. Overcorrection, more than 12 milliequivalents, increase in 24 hours can cause CPM. What are the tests I require? Serum osmolality, urine osmolality, urine sodium, and of course serum sodium are the important tests. Moving to hypernatremia. Hypernatremia is produced by either administration of hypertonic fluids or much more frequently by loss of the thirst mechanism. So what will happen? Normally, whenever the tonicity in the blood is going, the thirst center is stimulated and we are asked to take water. If there is a disturbance in the thirst center stimulation, there is loss of thirst and person fails to recognize the need to drink fluid. That means the body will have hypertonic hypernatremia, hypertonicity as well as the hypernatremia. Or inadvertent administration of hypertonic fluids can also produce hypernatremia. Because of extremely efficient regulatory mechanisms, we have wonderful mechanisms in the ADH and thirst. Two things are there: antidiuretic hormone to retain water and reduce the hypervolemia, hypertonic state, or stimulation of thirst center to bring in more water by way of drinking more fluid. Both ways, the hypernatremia is generally negated and corrected with prolonged lack of thirst mechanism. But the thirst center failure is the common cause. Patients with loss of ADH, that is, they don't have ADH, diabetes insipidus, usually can compensate by increased fluid intake, because ADH is not there, more water is lost, then the tissues can become, the intravascular compartment may become hypertonic, but that is prevented because their thirst center is still intact. That brings in fluid because polyuria stimulates polydipsia. Polydipsia compensates for the urine that is lost, the fluid that is lost by drinking more fluid. But if the thirst center is damaged, then people with diabetes insipidus can end up in hypernatremia. What are the causes? Insensible and sweat losses of water. So in summer, we lose a lot of sweat, and it could be hypotonic sweat. That means less sodium and more water is lost in very high heat environment. Or GI losses. More water is lost than solutes, than electrolytes. Diabetes insipidus, both central and nephrogenic. Or osmotic diuresis, as occurs in diabetic ketoacidosis and other osmotic diuretic conditions. Okay, hypothalamic lesions which affect thirst function, particularly tumors, granulomatous diseases. We know these are all the causes of central diabetes insipidus. Or sodium overload by infusion of the hypertonic sodium bicarbonate for metabolic acidosis. You are treating metabolic acidosis, you want to give bicarbonate, acidosis is corrected, but sodium is mounting. So that is how it can happen. Excess loss of water can compare it to sodium in the sweat, GI losses of more water than sodium, diabetes insipidus, both central and nephrogenic, osmotic diuresis, hypothalamic lesions like tumors, granulomas, or infusion of hypertonic sodium in the form of bicarbonate or other hypertonic solutions, sodium overload. Now, symptoms almost same as except that these people have twitchings, and then seizures, obtundation, coma are same. Muscle twitching is another feature. Lethargia, weakness, irritability can be their initial symptom. What will happen? Results in the brain volume to constrict because of hypertonicity of the vasculature. Just like in central pontine myelinolysis, the brain shrinks or water is drawn from the brain. That leads to rupture of the cerebral veins and can lead to the cerebral veins are ripped apart or torn apart because of pull by the oncotic pressure in the vasculature, and water exuding from the cerebral tissues into the vasculature can trigger hemorrhage. Severe symptoms usually occur with rapid increase in the concentration. You can see 158, 160 like that, and greater than 180, it is not such a high mortality and is not compatible with life. So how do I diagnose? Same lab workup like that. What are the things? Osmolality, serum osmolality, urine sodium, and of course serum sodium. Serum sodium, of course, is the feature which makes us diagnose hypernatremia. Urine sodium should be lower than 25 if and water and volume losses are the cause. It can be greater than 100 when hypertonic solutions are infused. Okay. If you look at the urine sodium, if the urine sodium is lower, then water and volume are the cause. If urine sodium is very high, that means we have infused or ingested hypertonic solutions. The urine osmolality is lower than the serum osmolality. That's what happens in case of diabetes insipidus. What is serum osmolality? 280 to 285. If the urine osmolality is around 150 or 100, less than 100, then that means, the urine is very dilute, no antidiuretic hormone. That means diabetes insipidus. And then administration of DDAVP will differentiate whether it is central or nephrogenic. If it is central, it will respond with DDAVP. If it is peripheral, even the injection you give has to go through the kidney only. If the kidney is at fault, then naturally the injection will not be able to correct the problem. How do I treat? First, calculate the water deficit. Just as we have calculated the sodium deficit there, we calculate the water deficit. How do I do that? This is the body water. This is the body water into plasma sodium by desired sodium level -1. So current body water, C is the current body water. Assume it to be 50% of the body weight in men and 40% in women. Just for calculation, 60 kilogram woman is there, 168 milliequivalents is the sodium. How much amount of water is required to bring it down to normal? How much water will reduce the sodium to 140? So how do I calculate? The formula is CW, that is the current body weight. Current body water is 60 kilograms into 40%. We said that is current, we'll calculate here. 60 into 0.4 will be the current body water. That is around 24, this part. And then 168 is the present serum sodium. 140 is the desired sodium to want to bring down. Divide one by the other, 168 by 140. This you get, I don't know, it's around, I'll just calculate and say. 168 by 140, 168 divided by 140 is equal to 1.2, it has come. 1.2 minus 1 is equal to 0.2. 0.2 divided by 24 into multiplied by 24 is equal to 4.8 liters. That means I have to infuse 4.8 liters of non-sodium containing isotonic fluid. Isn't it? But how fast I should correct this 4.8 liters? I can't push it in one go. So same as hyponatremia, there should not be fluctuations of more than 12 milliequivalents in 24 hours. Overcorrection leads to cerebral edema, seizure center. What does that mean for our patient? A 4.8 liters I have to give for that given patient with 60 kilogram body weight. 40% is the current body weight water. Current body water, that is for 60 into 0.4 is equal to 24. Expected sodium is 140. Present sodium is 168. 168 divided by 140 is 1.2. That whole minus 1 is 0.2. 0.2 multiplied by this current body water is 24, which is 4.8 liters. This 4.8 liters will lower the sodium by 28, should be given over 50 to 60 hours. That means you distribute this 4.8 liter fluid over around 48 hours or for 56 hours or 75 to 80 ml per hour. Typical fluid given is dextrose 5%, D5. 5% dextrose because this is non-sodium containing and isotonic fluid. Okay. So this chart is again, the classifying the hypernatremia, also hypovolemia, euvolemia, and hypervolemia, just like hyponatremia. I will share this presentation, and you can look at this flow chart. Very self-explanatory. Once you have understood what I have told, this chart will be very easy to understand. For you to read it from here may be difficult because of the small print. So I think we will end here. A summary of hypernatremia. Loss of thirst usually is the cause of hypernatremia, or hypertonic fluids are administered. Rate of correction 12 milliequivalents per day, not more than that we should lower. D5 is the solution typically used. Same diagnostic labs, serum sodium, serum osmolality, urine osmolality, and urine sodium. Beware, overcorrection produces cerebral edema, can also produce pulmonary edema. Thank you. So if you have any questions, otherwise anyway I'm going to share the PDF as well as the video.